Welcome to my YouTube channel at Sci-Fi Tales Pools. Please subscribe, like, and share to support my channel. Daniel walked across the long stone path of the royal palace. The air was cool and silent. The banners of the kingdom moved with the soft wind. He had seen this place many times, but tonight it felt heavy. The memory of the queen and her sorrow was always in his heart. Queen Eleanor was a strong woman, yet she carried pain that never left her. Many years ago, her daughter Lily had vanished. Some said raiders took her. Some said she had fallen to the shadows of the outer lands. No one knew for sure. The queen had searched for her with armies and scouts, but none had returned with hope. Daniel was only a boy when Lily was taken. He had seen her laugh in the gardens. He had seen the queen smile with joy as her daughter played among the roses. That memory never left him. He grew into a soldier, and every battle he fought reminded him of the promise he made in his own heart. He swore that one day he would find Lily and bring her back to the queen. The people of the kingdom spoke in whispers about the missing princess. Some said she was lost forever. Some had forgotten her face, but Daniel never forgot. At night, when others rested, he trained and prepared. He studied maps of the outer stars and the broken lands. He listened to stories told by travelers. Each word became a clue. He believed she was still alive and waiting. One evening, Daniel was called to the great hall. Queen Eleanor sat on her high seat. She looked tired, yet her eyes held strength. She spoke with a voice that carried across the room. She said that many had tried and failed to find her daughter. She said that she could not bear to send more lives into the void. Yet Daniel stepped forward. He bowed before her and told her that he would go alone if needed. He said he would not rest until Lily was found. The queen looked at him for a long time. At last she gave him her blessing, though sorrow filled her heart. She said that he carried not just his own hope, but the hope of the kingdom. Daniel prepared for the journey, gathered supplies and weapons. He said farewell to the men who had fought beside him. Some told him he was chasing a dream. Some told him he was walking into death. But Daniel only smiled. He told them that sometimes a dream is worth more than life itself. He stepped aboard his small craft and left the safety of the home he knew. Stars stretched before him like endless fire in the night. The path beyond the frontier was not gentle. Broken stations floated in silence. Old battle scars lay upon moons and worlds. Strange voices echoed in the void. Daniel kept his hand firm on the controls. He followed signs of hidden trails. He searched places others feared to tread. Each day was a test of his courage and faith. Each night he thought of Lily and the promise he carried. There were times when his ship was chased by raiders. He fought with steady aim and would not yield. There were times when storms of fire and ice struck his path. He held strong and pressed on. His body grew weary, yet his heart did not break. He believed that somewhere beyond the darkness a girl was waiting to be saved. At last, he reached a barren world at the edge of the stars. Here he found marks that spoke of human steps. He walked across the frozen ground and felt the weight of years upon him. He knew he was closer than ever before. He looked toward the black mountains and whispered her name. The wind gave no answer, but his heart told him that this was only the beginning of his quest. Daniel stepped across the frozen land with slow and steady steps. The wind was sharp and carried dust from the black mountains. His breath rose like smoke as he moved. He had followed the signs of human tracks and broken tools left behind by those who had lived here for a time. Each step filled him with hope that the princess was near. He would not turn back now. His heart told him that the long years of searching were leading him closer. His small craft stood behind him in the valley, hidden under stone and ice. He carried only his blade and a light to guide his way. The mountains rose like walls before him. The ground shook with sudden storms and the sound of falling rock. Daniel pressed onward. He thought of Queen Eleanor and her sorrow. He thought of Lily and the life that had been stolen from her. He told himself that fear would not break him. He would find her. Hours turned into days as he searched the frozen world. He found the remains of fires and shelters long abandoned. He saw the scratch marks of human tools against stone. At night, he sat alone by a small flame and remembered the promise he had made. When the stars filled the sky, he felt that Lily was out there waiting. It gave him strength to rise again each morning. One night he heard a sound that was not made by the storm. It was faint and distant. He lifted his light and moved toward it. He found broken chains and torn cloth buried in the ice. His chest tightened as he touched the cloth. It was small and light, like that of a young girl. He held it close and swore to keep going. He knew that Lily had passed this place. He knew he was on her trail. Daniel climbed higher into the black mountains. The air grew thin and cruel. His steps grew heavy, but his will did not fail. At last he found a narrow path that led to a hidden cave. Smoke curled from within. He pressed himself to the stone and listened. Voices echoed inside. Harsh voices of men who guarded something precious. He felt his hand tighten on his blade. He had found them. The ones who had taken the princess. He waited in silence and watched the guards move. There were many of them armed and ready. His mind told him that to strike now would be death. Yet his heart told him that Lily was inside and needed him. He chose to wait for the right moment. He watched their steps and their patterns. He studied every shadow. He told himself that patience was a weapon too. For 3 days, Daniel remained hidden. He watched the cave and gathered his strength. He saw food carried inside. He saw men laugh and boast. But he also saw one figure move with fear and sadness. She was small and pale. She carried water for the guards and kept her eyes low. His heart stopped. Even in the dim light, he knew her. It was Lily. Her face was older than when she vanished. Yet her eyes were the same. He felt tears rise, but he did not let them fall. He had found her at last. Daniel knew he could not rush forward. He had to plan. He had to strike when the night was deep and the guards were weary. He sharpened his blade and whispered her name to the wind. He swore again that nothing would stop him. The time of waiting would soon end. He would bring her back. He would keep his promise no matter the cost. The night grew cold and still. The guards sat by their fire with heads heavy from drink. The cave was quiet save for the soft crack of flame. Daniel rose from the shadows. He gripped his blade and stepped toward the mouth of the cave. His heart beat like thunder, yet his steps were silent. This was the moment he had lived for. The lost princess was within reach. The promise of years was about to be fulfilled. Daniel stood at the mouth of the cave with his blade in hand. The firelight inside cast long shapes on the walls. The guards were tired and careless. Their heads bent low as the drink made them heavy. Daniel waited for his breath to steady. He thought of Queen Eleanor and the years of sorrow she carried. He thought of Lily, who lived in chains inside. His promise burned stronger than fear. He stepped forward. The first guard never saw him. Daniel struck with a single motion, and the man fell silent. He moved to the second, who looked up too late. A short clash ended with Daniel standing over him. The others stirred, but Daniel was fast. His blade flashed in the dim light. One by one, they fell, and the cave grew quiet again. His chest rose with heavy breaths, but his will stood firm. At the back of the cave, he saw her. Lily stood near the shadows holding the water jar. Her eyes were wide with fear. She looked older, yet Daniel saw the same face he remembered from the gardens of the palace. He lowered his blade and spoke her name. First, she did not believe it. She thought it was another trick of the men who held her. But when she looked closer, she saw the mark on his hand. It was the mark of the soldier who swore to bring her home. She dropped the jar and ran into his arms. Daniel held her close and told her she was safe now. She shook with tears, but his voice gave her strength. He cut the last of her chains and wrapped her in his cloak. She whispered that she thought her mother had forgotten her. Daniel told her that the queen had never forgotten, and that every day she lived with sorrow. He said that he had carried the promise of her return through every battle and storm. Her tears fell, but they were not of fear. They were of hope. There was no time to rest. More guards might return at any moment. Daniel lifted her to her feet and guided her from the cave. The night air bit at their skin, but freedom filled their hearts. They hurried down the narrow path of the mountains. Daniel kept his blade ready and his eyes sharp. Lily leaned on him, yet each step gave her more strength. The stars above shone like fire, guiding their way. When they reached the valley, Daniel led her to his hidden craft. He pushed aside the stone that hid the entrance and brought her inside. The ship hummed with power as he prepared it for flight. Lily sat beside him, still shaking with disbelief. She asked if they were truly going home. Daniel told her yes, with calm and steady words. He swore that nothing would keep him from bringing her back to her mother. The engines roared, and the ship lifted into the dark sky. The frozen world fell away beneath them. Lily looked out the window with wide eyes. She had not seen the stars in years. She reached for Daniel's hand and held it tight. She whispered that she had dreamed of this moment each night in the cave. Daniel told her that dreams are the first step toward truth, and that tonight her dream was real. But danger was not far behind. The sound of pursuit filled the scanners. Raiders had seen the ship lift off. Daniel kept his hands firm on the controls. He told Lily to trust him. The chase began across the void. Bright fire streaked past their ship. Daniel moved with skill, turning and weaving through the storm. Lily held on but did not cry out. She believed in him. At last, Daniel found a break in the storm of fire. He pushed the ship through, and the stars opened wide before them. The raiders fell behind, lost in the shadows of the frozen world. Silence returned to the cabin. Lily leaned against him with tears still on her face. She whispered that he had saved her. Daniel looked at her and said that the promise was never broken. He told her that nothing in the stars could keep him from keeping his word. She closed her eyes with peace at last, as the ship carried them homeward. The stars stretched endless before them, as Daniel guided the ship across the dark sky. Lily sat beside him, wrapped in his cloak, her face still pale, but her eyes filled with light again. She touched the window and watched the stars pass like rivers of fire. She whispered that it felt like a dream. Daniel told her that dreams are born to be lived. His voice was steady as the engines carried them away from the frozen world. The path home was long and filled with danger. Raiders would not forget the one who stole their prize. Signals crossed the dark as hunters searched for them.
Us.
Daniel kept his eyes sharp on the scanners.
Us.
Each sound and each light in the void made him ready to fight. Yet he did not show fear. He knew Lily needed his strength to feel safe. He told her again and again that he would not let harm touch her. For days they moved through broken sectors. They passed ruins of old stations where silence was heavy. They crossed storms of ice that struck against the hull like hammers. Daniel held the craft firm, and Lily sat close, holding on to his arm. Her trust gave him courage to keep moving. At night when she slept, he stayed awake watching the stars. His thoughts returned to Queen Eleanor and the tears she shed each night. He imagined the day when mother and daughter would meet again. One evening, the ship shook with sudden fire. A band of hunters had found them. Their ships rose from the dark like shadows with sharp teeth. Daniel turned the craft hard. The engines roared and the chase began. Fire cut across the void. Lily cried out, but Daniel told her to hold tight. He moved the ship through rocks and falling stone. His skill was steady and his heart strong. He struck back with bursts of light and forced the hunters to scatter. The chase lasted through the night sky. Daniel fought with all his strength. His hands never shook, and his eyes never closed. At last he found a narrow gap between two burning moons. He pushed the craft through, and the hunters could not follow. Silence returned again. Lily leaned against him, her heart still racing. She whispered that she believed he would never fail. Daniel told her that belief was the shield that kept him strong. Days later, they reached the border of the kingdom. The stars grew brighter, and the signs of home appeared.
Ow.
Daniel felt the weight lift from his chest. He sent a signal ahead that the princess was alive and returning. The reply came back with voices filled with joy and tears. Words spread across the kingdom faster than fire. People left their homes to wait in the royal city. The streets filled with hope that had been lost for many years. Lily sat in silence as the ship drew closer to the heart of the kingdom. Her hands shook as she thought of her mother. She asked Daniel if the queen would know her after so many years. Daniel told her that a mother never forgets the face of her child. He told her that the bond of love is stronger than time. His words gave her peace, though her eyes still carried fear. At last the ship broke through the clouds, and the royal city came into view. Towers rose high, and banners flew with bright colors. Bells rang across the streets, and the people cried out with joy. They knew the lost princess had returned.
Oh.
Daniel guided the ship down to the great palace. Soldiers gathered in lines, and the people pressed forward to see with their own eyes. The sound of their voices filled the air with hope. Daniel helped Lily step down from the ship. The crowd fell silent as they saw her. Some wept, and others called her name. Lily held tight to Daniel's hand as they walked through the path of people. She looked around with wide eyes as if waking from a long dream. Each face gave her strength. Each cry of joy filled her heart. She whispered to Daniel that it felt like she was walking into the light after years in shadow. Daniel told her that the shadow was broken now. Only the light of home remained. The palace gates opened wide as Daniel and Lily walked forward. The people filled the great square. Voices rose like thunder as they called the name of the lost princess. Some fell to their knees in awe, while others reached out in joy. Daniel kept close to Lily, guiding her through the crowd. His eyes stayed firm and watchful, yet his heart filled with pride. He had brought her home. The promise of his life had been kept. Inside the grand hall, Queen Eleanor waited. She sat upon her seat, yet her hands shook as she held them together. She had heard the voices outside and the bells that rang across the city. She wanted to believe, but fear still held her. So many years had passed, and so many times her hope had been broken. She told herself not to dream again, yet her heart beat fast with longing. The doors of the hall opened. Daniel stepped inside with Lily at his side. The queen rose to her feet and her eyes grew wide. For a moment the hall fell into silence. Lily looked at her mother and tears filled her eyes. She cried out with a voice that carried through every stone, "Mom, I am back." She ran forward and fell into her mother's arms. Queen Eleanor held her tight and would not let go. The years of sorrow melted away in that single embrace. Tears flowed down the queen's face as she kissed her daughter's brow. She whispered words of love and thanks. Lily clung to her and told her that she had never stopped thinking of home. Daniel stood in silence, watching the moment he had dreamed of. His chest felt heavy with joy. He bowed his head as he saw the queen's tears fall not in grief, but in happiness at last. The court filled with cries of joy. Nobles and guards and servants all wept as they saw the reunion. They praised Daniel for his courage. They praised the strength of the queen and the endurance of the princess. Songs rose from the city below as bells rang without end. It was a day that would be remembered for generations. The day when the lost princess returned and hope was born again. Queen Eleanor turned to Daniel. She stepped forward with Lily still in her arms. She said that he had done what no other could. She said that his name would be written in the heart of the kingdom. She called him a son of honor and a guardian of the crown. Daniel bowed low and told her that he had only kept his promise. He said that a soldier's duty is to protect, but his heart's duty was to bring back what was lost. The queen lifted him up and placed her hand upon his shoulder. She said that his heart was greater than any sword. That night the city shone with light. Fires burned high on the towers and the streets filled with laughter. People sang the name of Lily and the name of Daniel. They shared food and drink in every home. Children ran through the streets with flowers. The sound of joy echoed through every stone. For the first time in many years, the kingdom was whole. In the quiet of the palace garden, Lily walked with Daniel. The moonlight touched the roses where she had once played as a child. She told Daniel that many nights she had thought she would never see this place again. She said that his face was the light that carried her through the dark. Daniel told her that her courage gave him strength when his path was hardest. They smiled, though their eyes still held tears. Queen Eleanor watched from the balcony above. Her heart was filled with peace. She knew her daughter was safe, and that the soldier who had saved her would always guard her. She raised her eyes to the stars and gave thanks. The night sky seemed brighter than ever before, as if the heavens themselves joined in the joy. The kingdom slept with dreams of hope. The story of the soldier and the lost princess would live forever. Daniel had proven that the strength of one human heart could overcome despair. He had shown that loyalty and love are brighter than any star. And so the tale closed, not with sorrow, but with the light of reunion and the promise of a brighter dawn. Thank you for watching and being part of our community.